Hey Vapers, what is up? Abby here, and today we are doing a little something for the vaping beginners. Yeah! We are going to be talking about what is vaping, what are these crazy terms you see thrown around, what are the components in an e-cigarette, all the definitions that you need to know, so stay tuned. Okay, so what is vaping? Well, vaping is not smoking. Vaping an electronic cigarette is basically heating up a coil inside your atomizer or your device, which we'll talk about in a second. And it's creating a vapor that you're inhaling into your lungs, and it's a way of delivering nicotine. Now, there are also 0 milligram nicotine e-liquids, which we'll talk about as well. So the components of every single e-cigarette, personal vaporizer, vaporizing device, whatever you want to call it, there are the same components in every single device. You're going to have your battery and you're going to have your atomizer. So even for this device, you have your battery and you have your atomizer. You have your battery and you have your atomizer. So you're gonna see those components the same across the board for vaping. There's always a battery component and an atomizer component. The battery is what provides power to the coil, heats up the coil, and produces the vapor. The atomizer has your coil in it and has a wicking material, so when the coil heats up, it heats up the e-liquid that's brought through the wicking material to the coil, vaporizes it, and then you inhale it. So even though in some of these tanks and devices you cannot see the coil per se, there is a coil in there. There are different atomizers that you can purchase. There are ones that are kind of geared more towards beginners that already have the coil pre-installed, and ones that you cannot replace. And then there are atomizers where the coil is pre-installed, but you can also unscrew and swap out your coils. And there are also atomizers that you can rebuild yourself, and that's kind of on the more experienced level of vaping. So what we have here is just a super simple tank with the coil pre-installed in there. This is kind of like a beginner's tank that you would see. I think this is the pro tank, I'm not sure. I basically went through all my old stuff and tried to bring out as many different types of devices as I could. This is a Kangaroo Pro Tank, Mini Pro Tank. This was one of my first tanks that I owned, and basically you would just screw this onto your battery, and it also came with replacement coils. More recently, there are also now sub-ohm tanks, which are similar to the regular kind of beginner tanks that you would see, but they have a lower resistance coil, and they look like this. This is the iSub, and then this is the Kangaroo Sub-Tank Mini, and they come with replaceable sub-ohm coils. The next kind of atomizer is a rebuildable tank. This is the Goliath V2, and this is a type of tank where you can unscrew all the parts and you actually build onto the deck itself and put it all back together, put e-liquid, and it basically serves the same purpose as one of these tanks. These type of tanks are also called RTAs, or rebuildable tank atomizers. And the next type of atomizer, and the one you'll see me using most often, is called the RDA, for rebuildable dripping atomizer. And that one looks like this, where you can pop off the top and have access to your coils and your wicking material. So the RDAs and the RTAs are both rebuildable, and those are kind of on the more experienced level of vaping. But basically all of these serve the same sort of function. They heat up the coil, which then in turn heats up the e-liquid, vaporizes it, and you inhale it into your lungs. Okay, so how do you know which atomizer or which tank is going to be right for you when you're starting out vaping? If you're switching from smoking to vaping, you probably want an experience that is similar to smoking, which means a tight draw and a mouth to lung inhale. When you're searching for your coils, you want to look for 1 ohm and higher. If you are just switching from smoking to vaping, you want that tight draw. You want a tank with smaller airflow. You want a tank with a higher resistance. We're lucky enough that now we do have the sub sub-ohm tanks, and we do have some tanks that come with the option of getting replacement coils that are like 1.2 ohms, and also have the same replacement coils that are at 0.5 ohms, and you can kind of interchange them within your device and kind of experience both and see what you like. So if you are a newbie vapor, I would recommend finding a tank that maybe has replacement coils that have a different range of ohm resistance. So they could have like a 1.2 and then a 0.5, and you can start with the 1.2, and then after you've been vaping for a while, then switch to the 0.5, see if you like it. If you don't, go back, and if you do, then welcome to the world of sub-ohm vaping. All right, the next component of an e-cigarette is the battery. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Most of your beginner batteries are gonna look like this. They're gonna be kind of just long cylindrical. They're either gonna be shorter to kind of signify shorter battery life, or the more battery life, the longer these type of batteries are going to get. And they may or may not have like an adjustable ring on the bottom where you can adjust the voltage. There are also batteries like this. This is the CoolFire 4, where this is kind of a beginner battery as well. It also gives you a screen where you can adjust your voltage and wattage. Both of these devices work pretty much the same way. It's just up to you based on your budget and based on how long a battery life you think you'll need to kind of sustain you for the entire day. Back in my day when I first started vaping like 2+ years ago, the Ego style batteries, which are these kind of tube batteries with the 510 connection at the top, these were kind of our only option for vaping. And then the MVP box mod came along, which is similar to the CoolFire, and that kind of was usually the next step up. Now though, I feel like people just getting into vaping can get a CoolFire or an MVP3 Pro or something like that, and they have much longer battery life, and they have variable voltage and wattage in that screen, so you can see what you're doing and adjust your vape to find something that really suits your preference. And then from there, we go up to kind of the more higher power battery devices where you can have higher wattage, higher voltage, and those are devices like your Sigeli 150, your IPv3. This is a Smith box that's beat up to all hell. We also have battery boxes like the Hexome, which have a potentiometer that you would kind of use to adjust your voltage that way. And then there are also mechanical mods or mech mods, which look like this. And they are basically just tube style mods where you put in your 18650 battery and you use the button basically to make a connection with the battery and the atomizer, and that's what fires the device. So these don't have any sort of chip included to kind of regulate the device or any type of short circuit protection, so they really should only be used by experienced vapors. So the last component of the electronic cigarette is e-liquid. And e-liquid is what you are vaporizing to get the nicotine into your body. So e-liquid is made up of propylene glycol or PG, vegetable glycerin or VG, artificial flavors, and your nicotine strength. Now you can choose, the same flavor can be in multiple different nicotine strengths. You can choose 0, 3, 6, some have 9, 12, 18, I've seen some at 24, and that kind of just is based on how much you used to smoke, how much nicotine you need to kind of stay off of cigarettes to get that little nicotine buzz. And when I started vaping, I started at 12 milligrams nicotine. Now, I wasn't a really heavy smoker. I smoked about 2 to 3 packs a week. And so I started at 12 milligrams. I'm now at 3 milligrams of nicotine. So I've kind of done the step down process. And when you start out, it's good to make sure that you're at a high enough level of nicotine that's going to satisfy you and get you off the cigarettes. And then if you want, you can step down, and you can usually find different nicotine levels of the same EJUICE. So you don't even need to, change your EJUICE flavor to kind of step down your nicotine. The e-liquid bottles usually look like this. They come in either glass bottles or plastic bottles, and they come in all sorts of different flavors. There are so many e-liquid brands out there that are just kind of all over the map in terms of flavors. So you just pick one that you think you'll like. Now, if you are just switching from smoking to vaping, you may want to go with a tobacco blend or some sort of like vanilla tobacco, something like that, so that it's kind of similar to what you're used to. But then once you're used to vaping, I would encourage you to kind of try out maybe some of the subscription services or something like that to kind of try some different e-liquids. I know for me, I am always trying out new e-liquids and trying to find the next best thing. So those are the components of an electronic cigarette. We went over the batteries, we went over the atomizer, we went over the e-liquid, and those are the components that you're gonna find in every single e-cigarette out there today. So you'll know what you're looking at and you'll know what you're reading about or thinking about purchasing if you're thinking about getting into the world of vaping. So I hope this video was helpful and help some really new beginners kind of learn the terminology and what vaping is and kind of how they can get started and how they can know what they're looking at when they're going to purchase their first setup. If you guys like these types of videos and want me to make more of them, please give this video a thumbs up and mention in the comments below what you want to see next. I really want to make more videos for newbie vapors, just explaining vaping in general and kind of breaking it down into simple terms so you can understand what's going on and we can get you switched from smoking to vaping as soon as possible. That's it for today. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. This is basically your simple box mod. You need to know Ohm's law to operate this device. It takes